Hello and welcome to everybody on Cloud Fitness. So in today's video, we are going to have a Snowflake portal walkthrough. We are going to see how the portal looks like and what are the different features, and we are going to know more about the Snowflake portal itself. So now let's move on directly to the Snowflake portal, and in fact in my previous video we have created our Snowflake account. We have used the Snowflake free trial to create this particular account, and we already know that this is how the first UI will look like. Also this UI, this is the first page that you will land in. So this is the latest UI that Snowflake has, right? It's almost same thing. So the moment you understand the older version, like the classic console, these are just it's wrong to say older version, it's just that it has two UIs. You can use whichever one you are comfortable with, and both are exactly the same. And once you know the one UI, the second one will be easier for you. It's because it's just the same thing, but just the UI is different. So let's go to the classic console that we have, because this looks a little better to me. Now if you see on the left hand side, these are the database, right? So you have this Snowflake sample data database, you have the Snowflake database. These comes by default, right? And inside it, what you see in this flower symbol, account usage, right, access history, columns, right, all these are the tables which are present by default in the schemas. Right now these are the views, right? These are the views. There are no tables in this schema, but essentially in this schema you can add the views, you can add the tables, whatever you want, right? So for example, like this, if you have any, you can also create your own database. You can create your own schema, then you can add the tables in that. And the moment you click on any of these, right, you can click on these three dots, right? You can say, okay, I want to preview my data. So the moment you do that, you can actually see that it says that no active warehouse selected in the current session. It means that right now you have not selected a warehouse. So we have already talked about all of these concepts in the architecture of Snowflake. So I do recommend watching that video in case you are not comfortable with what is warehouse in Snowflake. So if you see, the moment I clicked on this particular view, you can see the the metadata, essentially the policy name, policy ID, policy schema, policy database, policy body, right? So all these details and the data types came in columns, and the data type for these default tables, for these default views, right, it came in over here, right? Now if you see, there's an option of new worksheet, right? This is the place where you type in your queries, right? This is where you type in your queries. Now if you want to have multiple worksheets, you can just click on this plus symbol and you can have as many worksheets as you want, and you can name it as well. Let's say name 4, right? Similarly, you can name this worksheet as name 3, right? Similarly, you can go ahead, name this worksheet as name 2. So likewise, you can go ahead and name your worksheets. If you want to delete them, you can delete it as well. If you have created a query, and you can just select part of that query and you can hit run, and you can simply run this particular query, right? If you go in the top, you can see that there is a database icon. So the moment you click on this database icon, right, things will look like this. Now you can go ahead, you can clone a database, you can clone an existing database as well, right? If you want to create a new database, you can hit on create, and you can simply go ahead, create. Let's say we say test database, right? And you can also do something like show SQL. It will give you the SQL command, to which you can directly run as well. Now let me just close it and let's click on finish, right? So the moment I click on this okay, and this test database is created, if I click on this, you can actually see that it says that you have to grant privileges, right? So this is how you have actually created a database, and then you kind of grant privileges. You grant access to that database to different set of roles, and this roles is nothing but a group created with multiple people. So if you see grant privileges on, you can select the database, test database privileges to grant what kind of privileges you want to grant, right? Let's say modify. And after that, let me select a role to whom you want to give this access, right? Let's say right now I am account admin, right? You want to give it to account admin, right, with grant option. This means that the user will be able to grant the privileges to other people as well, right? And just click on grant. So you can see now the person with role as account admin will be able to access this database, right? So this works like this. Similarly, you have shares option to share the data part. Then you have warehouses option. Now this warehouses option we have discussed a lot in the architecture videos, right? So essentially, if I click on this create option, it is exactly like the cluster. So let's say I say cluster. This cluster is nothing but your virtual machine. So in case you're using Azure, it is your virtual machine. Then you select the size of the cluster and you can actually see this credits part, right? Small, extra small, medium, large, right? So in fact, if I go back in my PPT as well, I have kind of given you the pricing part, right? So this is how the pricing look like, right? So X, XS, S, M, right? And moment you increase, this was the pricing part, right? So we have already discussed this in detail. Maximum cluster, minimum cluster, this is nothing but you increase the concurrency of workload. Now this concurrency is nothing but this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, right? The number of machines you are increasing. The minimum number of machine is this much, maximum is this much, like you can keep whatever number you want. Auto suspend after 10 minutes, that in case it is ideal, right, it is not working, it is not running any query for 10 minutes, then after that just simply drop it, shut down the cluster, because I don't want to pay after 10 minutes, right? And this also tells you how many credits, right, it is consuming per hour. So like this you can go ahead and create a warehouse as well. We will do it, no worries. So this is just a walkthrough, right? In similarly, once you have created it, you can suspend, you can resume. Similar to the database, you can start, you can stop the cluster, you can drop it. Similarly, worksheets I have already explained, like you can create as many worksheets as you want. History means essentially the queries which you have run till now, right? It will show you what all queries have been run, right, by which user, right? Whenever, like for example, right now I am the only user over here, but if there are any other users, you can go ahead and check the queries as well, right, for a particular user, for a particular warehouse, right? With one particular warehouse, what all work has been done, right? So this is the default one, the one this grant modify, right? So each and everything in detail is actually present in the history. We will definitely come up here, so no worries on that part. Similarly, account, the details related to your account will actually come up over here. The usage part of it, how much you have used, what is the billing, who are the users, what are the roles which are present. So by default, these are the roles which are present: account admin, organization admin, public security admin, system admin, and user admin, right? So user admin can actually create and manage roles, right? So these are the default ones. You can go ahead and create a new role as well. You can edit an existing role as well. So these things you can actually do. So similarly, resources monitor, right? You can actually monitor the consumption part of it, right? So these are the details. We will, as we pass through in the video, we will have all these details. Similarly, we have something called as partner connect. In case you want to connect to Alteryx, you want to connect to your Click, you want to connect to any other thing as well, any other third-party tool, and start reading the data, then start analyzing and loading the data, then you can do it using this partner connect. In this help option, if you can see, there is a Snowflake documentation. You can visit the community, and there are other options as well. Similarly, you have notifications. So in the settings, let's go to the settings. If you see, I can enroll for the notification, right, over here. So this is how we will see all these things, no worries with that. So right now I'm just giving you a walkthrough. So in the general part, you can normally see the username, login name and all, right, the passwords, and you can also enroll for the multi-factor authentication. So the moment I click on this, you can set up the multi-factor authentication on your mobile phone as well. right? If you want to, I don't want to do that. So but in case you want to do that, you can enable this MFA as well over here. Similarly, if you go to this account admin, right? So in case, let's say you have been granted multiple roles, right? So whichever role you want to switch, you can switch to that particular role as well, right? So this is how essentially the overall UI looks like. Also remember that whatever role you are selected in, right, so that role will actually appear here as well. You can change the role from this part. Similarly, you can select, so you can see this warehouse. So whenever you have to run a query, a warehouse has to be created, a database has to be selected, a schema has to be selected. So you select a database, you select a schema, you select a warehouse, and then run a query. Similarly, for the database part again, right, you have essentially it's the same thing. You kind of select the database and schema, and here again you go ahead, select the database and schema. So these things you can actually go ahead and see. Similarly, you have something called as data preview, where you actually see you can preview the data part of it. We will go in detail for all of this because we are going to work on this. So this is a very short and brief introduction of the UI part. So thank you so much for being till here, and do remember to like, share and subscribe to my channel.